So if you're interested in setting up a multi-room speaker and want to do it with great finesse and sound quality, Audiopro is definitely a company that you can really look into, and they provide you with superb sound quality for the amount of money you pay. But what is a multi-room speaker and what do you need it for? Let's find out. So today's speakers are sent over to me by Audiopro Malaysia, and although they have sent me these couple of speakers, I will still be sharing with you my honest thoughts about these speakers. These Audiopro range of speakers are not your average Bluetooth speakers and are classified as multi-room Wi-Fi speakers, so they compete with the likes of Sonos or mainstream brands like Sony or Pioneer, so they're priced around the multi-room speaker price bracket. The C3 that we have here retails for about 1,599 Malaysia ringgit, which is around 299 US. And the bigger Audiopro C5 that we have here comes in cheaper at 1,399 and around 249 US. And the big brother that we have here, which is the C10, which is so massive it doesn't even fit in front of me, comes in at about 1,999 and that's around 349 US. So if you like what you see and want to get any of the speakers, definitely check out the links below. So I'm sure you've heard of the brand Audiopro, or at least you have seen their logo around. In fact, they have been in the industry since the 1970s. The Audiopro Addon series, which is the C3, the C5 and the C10, are all designed as your typical retro style cabinet speakers, or maybe like old school amplifier speakers. Either way, these look super awesome and will fit any home design. So whether you're getting this big C10 or the medium-sized C5 or the tiny C3 that you see here, you're getting pretty much the same design. And all of these speakers are active speakers and they all come with different amplifiers to drive those speakers inside the cabinet itself. So from a design perspective, you'll be getting an array of speakers in front, and they all come with two tweeters at the front and a center woofer, and the tiny C3 speakers are all grilled up, whereas the C5 and the C10 only gets grilled for the tweeters itself. And all of these speakers are housed inside a solid wood cabinet, which also weighs quite a bit. So the C3 that you see here weighs in at 2.2 kgs, the C5 at 2.45 kgs, and the C10 at 4.05 kgs. So at the top of all of these speakers, you'll be getting a genuine leather handles for all of the speakers. Very nice, very classy here, with very nice hardware buckles at each end, and they all look super good and classy. And the control panel here is made of a brass metal, very nice material here, and has a brushed metal design with metal buttons all around them for you to control your speaker. And you're not gonna get a whole lot of media controls here because this is not like something you put next to you and control them. So you'll be getting some controls for your audio, your Bluetooth, your source, volume, and some Wi-Fi presets here. And because the Audiopro C3 is the only model with a built-in battery, so you'll also be getting a battery indicator on the C3 itself. So at the back of the cabinet, you get a very high-end look to it, and very typical to those high-end cabinet speakers that you get. So the C3 is a little bit simpler, so you'll be getting a AC power input, an Ethernet port, a button for Wi-Fi connect, and a 3.5mm auxiliary port at the back. And here you also get a base port, so for the air to move in and out. And when you look at the C5 and the C10, so here we have the C5, you'll be getting more stuff here. So you'll be getting the same AC input, you'll be getting Ethernet, you'll be getting a base subwoofer out. So you also be getting a USB port for you to charge your phone. You also get the same Wi-Fi connect button. Here you also get a toggle to change between Wi-Fi play or optimize for input play, which it says here for Bluetooth, line-in or RCA. And here you also be getting a RCA input for your more traditional type of analog signal. And lastly, here we also have the C10, which is the same as the C5. You get the AC, USB, sub out, RCA, the Wi-Fi and input switch, as well as the Wi-Fi connect, as well as an Ethernet port. So that's basically all of the controls and the ports you get for all three of the speakers. So speaking of battery life, all three of these speakers that you've seen previously are all powered through AC adapter, but the C3 is the only one that comes with a battery inside, so pretty big one in this case. When you use it at 50% volume, the C3 gives you about 15 hours of playback time, and even if you blast it at max volume, it gives you a solid 9 hours of playback time. So all three of these speakers don't come with the latest Bluetooth chipsets, and granted these aren't the newest speakers in the market as well, so they only come with a Bluetooth 4.0, but don't be fooled because this Bluetooth 4.0 is unlike normal Bluetooth 4.0, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. But the thing is that these speakers are not built to be specifically Bluetooth speakers, but Bluetooth is just one of the many inputs. So as Wi-Fi speakers, all of these speakers supports 802.11 at 2.4 GHz, and other input sources includes Ethernet and 3.5mm auxiliary, and both the C3 and the C5 you'll be getting RCA input as well. So the audio format supported for all of these speakers includes MP3, WMA, AAC, FLAC files, and also Apple lossless. The C10 obviously has the biggest and more powerful speaker units that go lower and deeper than the other two, and the C5 sits in the middle, and the C3 being the tiny one has the smallest performance among all. Also, if you run them both through your home's Wi-Fi, these speakers also support Apple AirPlay and Spotify Connect. And I must say, at this price point, it's hard to find another speaker that outperforms the Audiopro. Even the tiny C3 is absolutely amazing, and everything is just on point with these speakers, and because of that woofer on each of them, they absolutely drive every single note, every depth, every cymbal, and every snare hit accurately. The key difference between them, I would say, is how loud they get and how deep they go. They all have good mids and highs, no doubt about that, very crisp, very clear, and bass on the C3 is also very good, but definitely doesn't stack up to the bass of the C5 and the C10, which is bigger and deeper. And when you swap between them, you definitely can hear the difference between the C3 and the C5 and C10. Once you compare them, because if you don't listen to anything else and you listen to the C3, it sounds amazing, but once you listen to the C5 and the C10 and come back to the C3, you find that it's a little bit less definition compared to the both bigger speakers. Don't get me wrong, this on its own is still a fantastic sounding speaker. So using these speakers with apps like Tidal, specifically on some master quality test songs that I usually enjoy, I think I'll go beyond saying just how good the bass, mids and highs sound, because they are all very accurate. What I must emphasize is the ability for these speakers to properly drive emotions through the song. And I've group played all three of them next to me, creating a three-dimensional experience, and it really made every song extra expressive, detailed and pop. You definitely really need to try them live themselves, and if you have a shop nearby that sells Audiopro, definitely go and check them out. It's really unfair, or really doesn't play it justice to play it over YouTube, because you don't really hear the full spectrum of it. And lastly, I just want to point out that volume is a funny thing on its speakers, and at least using my iPhone, it starts getting loud only above 50%, and anything below that you don't really feel a very big difference, but past 50% it starts to exponentially get louder, and I wish that it had a more linear volume control. So a chunk of the multi-room speaker magic happens in the app, and the Audiopro app acts as a unified audio player, so you can control your speakers and apps and music apps all in one single place. So we'll take a look at some of the key features of this app itself. So if you swipe to the left, you'll be able to manage all of the music services that you use. Some of it, like Tidal, is integrated into the app itself, but some apps like Spotify will bring you to the Spotify's native app itself. So here you can adjust it based on the type of services that you use. So all you gotta do is click in the settings, and here this is where you get to select any of the services that you use. So for example, if I only use Spotify and Tidal, I can turn the rest off. And if I go back, all you see is the few services that you use. So if you click into any of the services like Tidal, you'll be able to get to search any of the music that you like right inside the app itself, which is pretty cool. And once you select any of your music, for copyright reasons, I'm not going to play any music here, but what you get to do is go into the speaker control center. So here you will see all of the speakers that you have in your network, and once all of these speakers are connected to Wi-Fi, you can play them in anywhere in the room as long as connected to the Wi-Fi. So you can have one in your bedroom, you can have one in your kitchen and one in the living room, and they'll play at the same time. So in order to group speakers together, since this is a multi-room speaker, you can click on any of this plus sign here, and inside you can synchronize any of the speakers. So you want to synchronize C3, C10 or C5 all together, click done, and it will group all of them into one array. So after that, when you play music, all three of the speakers will play together. And you can also control the volume here. So if you start swiping here, you get to either choose group volume, or you can adjust individual volume itself. And one more cool thing is that if let's say you have a multi setup, let's say you have two C10s next to each other, you can select each of them to be either left channel, right channel, or you can have them to play both. Maybe it could be a center channel, for example. So that's how you can control some of the key features inside the app. And to split all of these speakers again, just click on this and you can detach any of the speakers that you don't want and continue to play the rest as a group. You can also click into any of the individual speakers. So what you can do inside here is to change the speaker name. You can also control the bass and treble. So you don't get a full-on EQ setting, but you can also individually adjust the bass and treble to your liking. You can set alarm clock, speaker presets for the 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons that you see, and a sleep timer. And so on and so forth. So that's basically all of the controls you get with the Audiopro multi-room speaker app. So I really hope to be able to try out some of the Sonos speakers in the future, but until then, if you're in the market looking for a multi-room speaker with insanely good sound quality, looks good and reasonably priced for this genre of speakers, definitely look no further, and the only question you need to ask yourself is which size do you need and whether or not you need the battery inside the C3. So that is it for this review. If you find this video helpful, smash that thumbs up button, share this video everywhere, and if you haven't yet subscribed, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.